Crash issue 19 was the August 1985 issue and gives the summer vibe by depicting a surfer riding the waves on a ZX Spectrum Plus. This issue was controversial for Crash as they included a section of spoofing rival magazine Sinclair User. They were threatened with legal action but ultimately settled out of court. Let's take a look at the games that received the highest scores in this issue. There are two games in 10th place this month. The first, with a score of 78%, is Paws by Arctic. In this game you play a cat called Selwyn that has to rescue 10 kittens from around a maze whilst being pursued by bullying dogs. Crash found it a graphically pleasing, well-animated race against time maze game, and not a bad one at that. They felt it was quite easy and didn't pose any real challenge once you'd mastered the different aspects. By this point in 1985 this game seems quite derivative and nothing really new. There's nothing wrong with the graphics or presentation, but there doesn't really seem to be enough challenge with the game to make it at all exciting. It's less frustrating than many games in this month's issue, and may be good for one or two goes, but I can't see it having lasting appeal. Also in 10th place with 78% is Abu Simbel Profanation, written by Spanish software house Dynamic and released in the UK by Gremlin Graphics. In this game you play intrepid explorer Johnny Jones, who has become trapped in the Egyptian temple of Abu Simbel and has to find his way out. Crash described this as a hell of a difficult game to play, but yet not off-putting. They didn't think it offered anything outstandingly original in terms of gameplay, but offered a tough challenge for the price. They found the graphics gave an authentic, spooky atmosphere, and that it was a game that platform freaks would probably love. They've really not pitched the difficulty at all well in this game. From the first screen it requires pixel-perfect timing and jumping. Just slightly out and you're back to the start of the screen. It looks like it could have been quite a good game if they'd have eased you in. As it stands, it's just too frustrating to want to come back to. In 9th place, with 79%, is Silou from Firebird. In this game you play the role of a trog called Silou. In order to prove your ability to lead your people, you need to retrieve 24 objects scattered around a 3D maze and return them to the start point. Crash described this as an Alienate lookalike, with similar 3D effects but not quite as good. They felt that the sound could have been improved to liven the game up a bit. They found that the playability was impacted by the mobility problems, but at a cost of £2.50 you couldn't really go wrong with the game. Although this game somewhat resembles Alienate, it doesn't quite have the polish of that game. The 3D perspective view is not isometric and just looks a bit odd. There are many controls to get used to, but what really lets the game down is the rotate and move forward controls. With normal direction keys your character may have been more precisely controllable, but I didn't particularly enjoy this and won't be coming back to it. In 8th place we have Mordon's Quest from Melbourne House. This is a text adventure in which you have to save the universe by recovering the lost components of an immortality machine. This game has gone all out on text, sacrificing space that could have been used for graphics, and instead cramming more detailed text into the game. Crash liked the character set and the way in which the text was justified, saying that someone had taken the time to get the appearance just right. They liked the long atmospheric descriptions, and the way in which puzzles were ingeniously interwoven into a fascinating fabric of clues. However, they were disappointed by some of the non-standard vocabulary, for example using the command where instead of look. Generally, they found this a good atmospheric game and gave it a score of 8 out of 10, the score's averaging out at 82%. This game looks like it has the potential to be a reasonably good adventure. It's well presented with a narrow character set allowing more words on the screen at once, although by this point in 1985 the lack of graphics is a bit disappointing. The location descriptions do a good job of creating an atmosphere. It's a shame that the examine command isn't always particularly helpful. This looks like a game worth playing if you like text adventures. In 7th place with 83% comes The Covenant by PSS. Your task in The Covenant is to restore a race of long dead people to a planet by collecting 64 pieces of a parchment from a subterranean horrorscape of 256 caverns. Crash liked the well-drawn and colourful graphics but found the movement of the game to be hard to get used to, due to the bad handling of your craft. Another challenge was your low initial supply of energy for the first part of the game, but they found that there was a great deal to see, and that it was a game that would keep the patient and persistent going for a long time to come. Overall they described it as an inspired but difficult game. I'm not a fan of this game. Your character when flying the ship is quite big. It's very easy to get stuck near an antagonist, find it difficult to move out of the way, and end up draining your energy. The game is colourful enough, but the lack of precision in controlling your character just makes the game frustrating. Not a game that I enjoyed playing, and not one that I intend to return back to. In 6th place, with 86%, we have Frank Brunos Boxing from Elite. As its name suggests, this is a boxing game, with you playing the role of boxer Frank Bruno, who was a big celebrity at the time this game was released. There were two boxing simulations reviewed in this issue of Crash, this and Rocco, although in the review they referred to the other game as Rocky. Crash found that this game offered more than Rocco, both in terms of the boxing moves you could utilise, and in the personalities of the 8 characters you fight. They had a couple of criticisms. The first was that the game was unplayable with joystick alone, a combination of joystick and keys working much better. The second was that the graphics could tend to be messy when the boxers cross. One of the reviewers found the game addictive, whilst another felt they would get bored easily with only 8 characters to fight. Personally, I didn't enjoy Frank Bruno's boxing. To control, it just felt sluggish, and the gameplay wasn't exciting enough to want to come back to. In 5th place we have The Fourth Protocol, released by Hutchinson. This game is based on the Frederick Forsyth spy novel. You run an MI5 department and receive messages, crack codes, and put people on surveillance in an attempt to find the source of some leaked documents. Crash found that the game's concept had been well implemented, and that the graphics were attractive and impressive. They described it as truly original, easy to play right from the start, and a game that keeps your interest throughout. Although not really an adventure game, it was reviewed in the Adventure Trail column and given a score of 9 out of 10 and a Crash Smash. Taking the scores as a percentage equates to 90%. This is an original approach to a game, somewhat a precursor to point-and-click adventures done within the limits of the spectrum. The graphics are not thrilling beyond the well-designed icons, but it feels like it will be a game with a lot of depth to it, and certainly not your typical adventure. This is a game I will undoubtedly return to. In 4th place with 92% is Hypersports, released by Imagine and written by acclaimed developer Joffa Smith. This is a Spectrum version of the Konami arcade machine covering 6 events. These are swimming, skeet shooting, horse vaulting, archery, triple jump and weightlifting. Crash described this as a superb arcade clone, with Imagine getting as close to the original as possible within the limits of the Spectrum. They found the graphics excellent, with few attribute problems, and the colours to be well used. The sound was a superb reproduction of the arcade machine, and the entire game followed the original very closely. Rating it 96% for addictive qualities, unsurprisingly it received a Crash Smash. I played this game a lot back in the day and loved it. Still good fun today, especially if you like games in the style of Daley Thompson's Decathlon. Some of the events have a similar effect on keyboards and joysticks, but there's such a variety here and the game stands up well even today. 2 games are in joint second place this month. With a score of 93% and another Crash Smash, we have Spy vs Spy from Beyond. In this game you take the role of a spy, competing against another spy, played by the computer or a second player. You both have the same task, to explore a series of rooms, find a set of items, and be the first to collect the items and leave on a plane. Whilst doing this, you are each able to set booby traps for the other spy, and even fight with them if you're in the same room. One Crash reviewer said they couldn't remember when they had so much fun playing a game. They felt that a novice wouldn't have much hope until they were well practiced, but praised the immense scope for weird and nasty tactics. They found the way in which the game operates over 2 screens was at first confusing, and it difficult, although important, to keep your eye on the other spy. They found it an absorbing and highly addictive game. The idea of this game appealed to me more than the game itself. I like the idea the dual window display was novel for the Spectrum, but the graphics seemed to lack polish, and the game involves just wandering around randomly looking behind pictures and in cabinets, and I was never quite sure how the fighting with the other spy was supposed to work. Probably worth a look if you haven't seen it before. It may be good as a 2-player game, but not really a game I enjoyed. Also in second place, again with 93%, is Nodes of Yesod from Odin Computer Graphics. In this game you take the role of Charlie Fotheringham Groons. You have to search caverns on the moon to find the source of strange signals coming from it. You explore by jumping between platforms and avoiding monsters. Crash said they had to look twice to make sure this is not a game from Ultimate, and noted similarities between this and Ultimate's Underworld. They described the graphics as fab, with a detailed main character who does smooth somersaults. Another reviewer found it to be one of the best games of the year, and one of the most playable they had loaded into their Spectrum to date. They liked the attention to detail and the fantastic surprises in store. The general opinion was that you'll be over the moon with this one. They gave it a score of 96% for graphics, and a very worthy Crash Smash. This game is somewhat along similar lines to The Covenant from this month's issue, but it is a far superior game. Odin do the graphical smoothness, movement of your protagonist and variety of aliens well. Being a platform game, there's a degree of frustration and the precision required on some of the jumps, but overall this is a fun game and well worth taking a look at. In first place with 94% and a Crash Smash is Frankie Goes to Hollywood, written by development team Denton Designs and released by Ocean. This is an arcade adventure and exploration type game based on the popular 1980s British band Frankie Goes to Hollywood. One reviewer said they were a little disappointed when they first loaded the game, as the screen area is pretty small and the main character clashes a great deal with the background. However, after a short time they grew to love the mystery of it all. They found the game deep and one that were looking forward to be able to play more. Although it took ages to get an understanding of even the most elementary parts of the game, it was fun to explore and full of surprises waiting around every TV set. The general rating was of a highly innovative arcade adventure that you must not be without. Although not really knowing the music of the band, I bought this game when it originally came out and can't say I got very far with it back in the day. It's an interesting and colourful game, and there's variety in it within the various sub-games. My biggest criticism is that it's so difficult to work out what's going on and how to make progress. It's quite refreshing in that at least it's not frustrating, but the overall strangeness of the game may not appeal to everyone. There's one special mention this month. This time it goes to another game from Spanish development team Dynamic. This is Rocco, sometimes known as Rocky, published by Gremlin Graphics. This is another boxing game, this one having a single perspective view from behind your boxer, with 4 adversaries to fight against. Crash found this to be a graphically very appealing game, although one that lacks playability, as the moves available to your boxer are very limited, and all of the other contenders you're fighting against look the same. One reviewer felt they had become inundated with boxing games at this point, and didn't find any of them particularly good. Another felt it may have been an original game on its own, but wasn't much of a game compared to Frank Brunos Boxing. They gave the game generally lower scores, with 79% for graphics, but an overall mark of 70%. This was another game I played back in the day. Although simpler than Frank Brunos Boxing, and perhaps lacking some of the variety of that game, I just find it a punchier game. The responsiveness doesn't seem as sluggish as the other game, and it just generally feels more fun. I can understand this may not have long-lasting appeal, but it's great for a few minutes play. If you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to see more videos about retro games from Norlogic Retro.